Hello and welcome to the CoJMC Crash Course, where me and two guests talk about what you can expect to get out of each major here at the College of Journalism and Mass Communications. I'm your host, Henry Goodwin. Today we're talking about journalism, and I'm here with Professor of Practice here at UNL, Matt Waite. Matt Waite, how are you?
I'm doing well. How are you?
I'm good, and we are also here joined by Senior Journalism and Ad PR major, Maddie Ames. Maddie, how are you?
I'm doing really good. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. So let's just kind of jump into things. Matt, what do you expect students to get out of the journalism major here during their 4 years?
The short version is there's a lot. You're going to learn a lot. You're definitely going to be able to communicate. You're going to definitely be able to write. What we hope to instill in you is a curiosity about the world and the ability to go find stuff out about it. For me, reporting was always the best thing in the world because every day was something different and I could go learn about it and geek out on it and tell people about it. And then the next day it's a whole new thing that I'm going to learn and geek out about and learn about and all that. So sort of building that innate sense of curiosity. We try to build in a little bit of punk rock, because sometimes the government doesn't want to tell you something and they're legally obligated to tell you because it's a public record. And, we want you to get a little grit in your teeth and go get it and go find out. Try to have a bit of fun too. But yeah, the courses I teach are in data analysis and data visualization. So I'm bringing a whole new tool set to this idea of curiosity and going to find things out and being able to tell people about it. When we do it with, we ask questions with code and we tell stories with visuals and graphics. So there's a bit of a choose your own adventure element to the College of Journalism. If you want to sort of specialize more in one thing, there's enough courses around here that you can kind of push it in that direction. There's no one path through the building for everybody. It's what are you interested? What do you want to do? Where's your passion lie? And go in that direction. So,
Maddie, what kind of skills have you improved upon the most from being a journalism major?
Yeah, for sure. I think for me, really crafting the art of a really good pitch has been something I've learned a lot throughout my time here. Going in to talk to an editor, you don't need an idea, but you need a story. And so that's something I've really gotten to work on here, especially with Professor Chris Graves. She's somebody who's been really helpful for me in that journey, something I've really learned a lot about. It's made me a better editor. It's made me a better reporter. And it helps me be very insightful about what I want to pursue and be curious in a very intentional way, which I think is really important. Something else that I feel like I've really gotten to learn a lot about is public records requests. So I've done that throughout my time in depth reporting classes that I've taken with Dr. Waite and Professor Graves, and I've done that for 2 semesters now, and that's been really helpful for me because I know that it's such an important skill to have, and to be able to articulate a need to a public information officer is very important. And I mean, I just was looking through public records requests this morning that I needed for a story, and that's something I know I'm going to use a lot when I graduate. So that, along with breaking news, has been really important to me because I see such a need for it. Those are skills I've learned in like Journalism 200A, 200B, and I've applied them a lot to my work at the Daily Nebraskan, where I've gotten to really hone in on it.
And you're the editor-in-chief of the Daily Nebraskan.
I am.
What's that like?
It's the best job ever. I actually had my last meeting yesterday and cried in front of all of them, and it was so bad I had to leave the room because I cried so much because I love it so much. I've been at the Daily Nebraskan for 4 years. I applied the day after I graduated high school, and it's just a place where you get to take all the things I'm learning in my classes at the College of Journalism and apply them and help the student body and help our community and keep them really informed. So doing that every day by editing, coming up with ideas, working with other Big Ten editors, trying to incorporate all of that knowledge that we're gaining here and really just giving students the information they need and also giving journalism students the opportunity to really expand on those skills.
You said you work with other Big Ten editors, so it's like all connected in that sense?
Yeah, so I have been working with the Big Ten editors. The Michigan Daily, their editor started it. He just put together a group chat of all of us, and we hopped on a Zoom call. And so we talked about student visas and how we can kind of collaborate together to work on stories. And we see national issues being really the focal point for a lot of our coverage. And so we're trying to band together to then figure out how we can all work to support each other, because really we're covering a lot of the same things and we go through a lot of the same struggles. And so that's been a lot of fun. I'm excited to see how that continues into next year. Obviously I won't be here next year, but those are still things I'm going to like try and pass off to the next editor-in-chief so that she can continue to do that.
You mentioned how you're big into data journalism. What kind of, how can that kind of enhance stories?
There's all kinds of ways, and a lot of people focus on like the big, complicated, millions of records and all that. And I'll tell you the truth, some of the best stories I ever did that involved data journalism, it was no more than a paragraph that ended up in a story. I'll give you an example of what we're working on right now. The Nebraska legislature is about, I don't think they've actually finally sent it to the governor for signature, but it's pretty much going to happen now. A bill that would require every school district in the state of Nebraska to have a cell phone policy in their schools that would essentially ban cell phone use during instructional activities. So, can't use your smartphone in class anymore, high school kids. Sorry. I was curious about that. I knew a lot of places that already had policies, and that got me curious about, well, just what kind of impact is this going to have, and how many school districts already have policies. And so I took my data journalism class and I assigned them all 5 school districts to call up and find out, did they have school district policies? And we built our own data set. And what we found is that we called the 145 largest school districts in the state and found only 8 of them didn't have a policy. But what we're finding is of the 8 that don't have an official policy, it's already banned in their student handbook, which is sort of a step below a policy. So for 94% of students in the state, the effect of this is going to be absolutely nothing, like literally nothing changes. So the legislature has, essentially banned something that was already banned. And we wouldn't have known that if we didn't go out and collect the data and look at it. Now, the other thing interesting that we found that we just literally did in class on Thursday was I had also had them ask each school district, when did you implement this policy? Like month and year of when you implemented this policy. And something like 130 of the 140 policies have been implemented post-pandemic. And so we're seeing that basically all of these schools, all these kids started coming back to school after being out because of COVID, wildly hooked on their phones. And a lot of these school districts started saying, ooh, we need to do something about this. And so the legislature is just basically coming in behind, and it's going to make them create a policy. But if you're a student in a school right now, it probably won't make a difference at all. Like, you'll wake up tomorrow morning and nothing will have changed.
What kind of skills do you focus on helping students really develop when they're here?
For me, it is, going back to what we said before, it really starts with intellectual curiosity. Like, if you just don't care how the world works and you just don't care to find out more about it, this isn't your major. There's a lot going on in the world right now. There's so much change happening. There's so much societal pressure around dang near everything that if you're not wanting to learn about it and tune in and figure out, okay, how do I work in this world? How do I move in this world? How do I understand this world? Then, man, we really can't help you. This is not the place for you. You got to want to know things, and you got to just sort of have that fire inside to go find out about them, and not let a lot stand in your way to go find out about it. I teach a class in AI right now that Maddie's in that I have a lot of fun with, but part of the message of that is, you got to be skeptical about a lot of this stuff. There's a lot of people who are trying to BS their way into more venture capital money that are saying all kinds of crazy stuff about what AI can do, that if you actually were to try it, it'd be terrible. They're saying, oh, we're going to change the way that society works. And it's like, does anybody want that? Asking tough questions and asking critical questions and really thinking through what somebody is saying. Like, those are all really high level mental skills that sometimes we can take somebody who is just completely tuned out and get them curious about this stuff. But more often than not, we're just throwing gasoline on a fire that somebody already has inside of them. And we're just sort of pointing them in a direction and giving that fire, that curiosity, some purpose. And yeah, the more I think about it, like, that's really what I hope to do. Like, you can learn how to write a lead. You can learn how to write a story. Like, those are things that you can pick up. Man, if you're just totally uncurious, there's just not a lot there for you. And so I can make you curious about writing. I can make you curious about anything. Then we got something and we can go somewhere. And I've had some great students, and I was on the board of directors that hired Maddie as the editor at the DN. And this is the thing that I look for, is just sort of, I'm looking for that fire, and how do I spark it, and how do I get it going, so that when you leave here, you are just burning bright.
Maddie, we talked a little bit about the Daily Nebraskan. So what are some other ways that you have gotten involved on campus?
Well, lots of different ways. Lots within the college. I was a peer mentor for a couple of years here while we had that program, and that was a lot of fun. I also really tried to get involved in my journalism classes. I like taking classes where you can, really just like dive deep into a topic. So I've done that through Nebraska Mosaic, through depth reporting classes. Really, really loved getting involved in the Media Lab capstone. I had a great experience in that class. But outside of that, I was a new student orientation leader, part of the university program council. So I try and do a lot of things where I can just really interact with people and engage with people. I think that's why I love journalism, is because I can meet so many different people and hear so many different perspectives on things. And so that's really how I've tried to get involved on campus.
And that kind of helps you beyond just being a good student. It kind of makes you a more like well-rounded individual, just kind of, listening to other people's stories.
For sure, yeah. I think I take a lot of the skills from being an orientation leader, for sure, with interviewing, because you have to establish relationships really quickly with parents and students so that they feel comfortable coming on campus. And so you can kind of learn how to do that. It's a very transferable skill when you're trying to establish a relationship with a source, for sure.
One of the jokes, it's not really a joke, that I tell students around here, is that one of the things we teach you is that your parents lied to you when you were a kid. And that is, they said, don't talk to strangers. That's actually one of the funnest things you can do. And the more you do it, the more fun it is. And the more weird people you meet in this world, the more stories you got. It's a feedback loop. The more people you talk to, the more interesting things you know, and you become more interesting yourself. I love talking to strangers. My kids hate going anywhere with me because I'll just strike up a conversation with anybody just for the heck of it. And yeah, okay, when you're 4, okay, fair game, don't talk to strangers, but you're not 4 anymore. Time to meet some people, time to get out of that bubble you live in and just strike up a conversation with somebody.
You can't be afraid to call people on the phone anymore. I called 3 people on the phone already today. Got to get over it. Got to talk to strangers.
It's tough. I still feel weird about it, but
you will forever. Like I did when I was a reporter. I always, I was a reporter for 15 years, and even at the end of it, I'm still like, I'd grab the phone and go and dial. Like you just, the worst thing they can do is say no and hang up. Like, who cares? There's no harm coming to you. I've been yelled at by some of the best people in the world, and it doesn't bother you after a while.
I think you teach one of the more interesting classes. It's kind of a mini class, the drone license class. And I didn't even think you needed a license to pilot a drone. So tell me a little bit about that class.
Well, you're not totally wrong. You don't need a license to fly a drone if you have no intention of making money at all ever from doing it. But if you intend to take a photo and use it for a purpose, so if you're working for the Daily Nebraskan and you want to take a drone and take a photo of it, you're working, and that makes you a commercial pilot, and now you need a license in order to be legal under the eyes of the federal government. If you're flying around your backyard and just having fun, no big deal. No, you don't need a license for that. But yeah, the moment you're being compensated is when you cross into that line. Now, compensated, if like Maddie came to me and said, I need a photo of something for the DN, and we don't have any money, but I'll make you a sandwich. That's still being compensated. You're still being paid to fly. That may sound really weird, but no, that's part of federal regulation. They said non-monetary compensation is still compensation. So the thing that I tell students about getting your drone license is it's not hard, but you do have to study. It's a multiple choice test, which most students are like, no problem, I'll just BS my way through that. No, it's a lot of really specialized knowledge that you have to learn, and you have to study, and you have to know how it interacts and how it, how the FAA asks questions. And once you do that, we're talking, 10, 20 hours of studying, and you take some practice tests, and you can pretty well get it down. It's not difficult, but it's more of an investment than you might think. Once you can do that, you'll get the license, and it's fine. And anything after that is you just take a free refresher course every 2 years and get your license updated, which reminds me, I think mine is coming up. Probably got to do that.
And what kind of stuff can you do with that license in journalism?
Most of the use in journalism now is at local television news, and they use them as essentially the most flexible and useful boom arm on a camera that was ever invented. The thing that they do the best is provide context. They are a flying context engine in my estimation. So we're recording this on a day where there's going to be some severe storms tonight. There may be tornadoes over in Iowa. That's the perfect setup for drone use. Is you go to a town where a tornado is just blown through, and trying to explain to people from the ground what a tornado going through a place looks like is kind of difficult. If you've never seen it before, it's almost impossible. But you give me a drone, you give me about 40 feet of airspace, and I can completely change your perspective on just how massive a natural disaster like that can be. And that can be for hurricanes, floods, tornadoes, wildfires, although wildfires are a little more difficult because generally there's a no-fly zone around those because they have firefighting aircraft coming in there. So most of wildfire coverage happens long after it's been put out, and you see the aftermath of it. Literally anything with any sort of geographic scope and scale, drones are excellent for that, and just showing people how wild it was. I would have loved to have had a drone up in Omaha last week when a big rainstorm came through and turned Saddle Creek Road into a river. There's a lot of social media video from the ground where literally a city road is just a raging river, and there's cars floating down it. Getting a drone up in the air and flying over that would have been great.
A lot of what journalism is about is sharing the impactful stories that really affect people's lives. Maddie, what has been the most impactful story you've reported on?
Man, I have so many, but I think one that I really, really loved that I did last semester, I actually did this for my final project for my media capstone, was I did a story on the Ponca tribe's revitalization of their buffalo herd. And that was something that was really just so much fun because they had so much fun sharing the story with me. So I drove up to Niobrara, and I really wasn't expecting, I was expecting them to do an interview. That was about it. And they were like, here, hop in our truck. We want to show you everything. And so just being there for 3 hours, I was writing notes down, but I was really just engaging with them. And they just loved sharing that story because it wasn't something that was really being shared before. And so that was really meaningful to me. And then to see the follow-up after that, and they posted it on Facebook and people were excited. That meant so much to me because I had so much fun with them and hearing why it's so important and learning the history behind it and the daily efforts, and that's their life, and they wanted to be open and vulnerable and sharing that with other people. That was great. And so that was one that was really, really impactful for me. I'm working on a story right now about the nursery program at the Women's Correctional Center in York, Nebraska, and that story is a lot of work, very in depth, but hearing from mothers who are incarcerated about that experience is very interesting and eye-opening to me. Hearing from an OBGYN who used to work in a jail and hearing how the first time she saw a woman shackled when she was about to give birth, like that's a crazy thing to hear about and very vulnerable. And so those stories are the ones that are the most impactful to me when I can share that with people because they want to open up about it.
One little addition to this that I think sort of illustrates a point here is one of the other things that we try to teach here in the College of Journalism is that things change, plans change, you got to roll with the punches, you got to be able to multitask, you got to be able to deal with things. And if I'm remembering correctly, Maddie drove to Niobrara to report that story and then jumped in the car and on the way back joined a Daily Nebraskan Publications Board meeting that she had to be at via conference call and participated from the road, which just kind of says something about dedication and the ability to sort of juggle multiple things, and Maddie does it well.
Gee, thanks.
I'm correct in that, right?
Yes, that did certainly happen.
Yeah.
We went up there, and I was like, we're not going to be here for a super long time. And then suddenly I was in, not a stranger anymore, but at the time I was like, this is a stranger's vehicle. My mom has no idea where I am. And I am inches away from a buffalo. Like if I roll my window down, like it is just immediately to my left. So, but favorite thing I did last semester for sure.
A lot of people will choose a major and then they kind of become a senior and then they realize, hey, this might not be something I want to do, but it's kind of too late. Are there a lot of, we talked a little bit about some of the transferable skills, but is there like a lot of flexibility between like if someone goes into journalism and then they decide that they don't want to do it?
Yeah. A joke that I make that's not really a joke is there are grooves worn into the ground between here and the College of Law. The number of journalism majors that we send to law school is pretty startling because what do you got to be able to do to be a successful lawyer? You got to be able to think on your feet. You got to be able to think critically. You got to be able to critically analyze things. You have to be able to write. You have to be able to write fast. You have to be able to absorb information quickly and turn around and explain it to somebody else in a clear and concise fashion. Yeah, so a lot of folks from here go to law school. We have a lot of journalism majors who go into all kinds of communications fields. We've had a number of journalism majors go into business, who've gone on and got MBAs and worked in places. We have a number of distinguished alumni who maybe had a cup of coffee in the journalism business, but went on and did things very successfully in other places and are still have their heart here in the College of Journalism and give generously to journalism programs. So yeah, any business where you can benefit from being able to communicate, being able to think, being able to critically analyze things and absorb information quickly, you're going to do fine.
And how valuable is that alumni network for students to be able to get a job?
It is extraordinarily valuable. The number of Nebraskans who are out and about would boggle your mind. For a state of barely 2 million people, there's barely a place in this country that you won't find a Nebraskan somewhere. I'll give you an example. This is not a perfect analogy here, but it gives you an idea of how Nebraskans identify each other, how you'll find them everywhere. In college, long story short, I managed to find myself in Bosnia covering the end of a civil war. And it was right as NATO was moving in and American troops were showing up. And I'm in the middle of a field one day, and there are all these soldiers from the 1st Armored Division of the American Army putting up tents. And I just, in the back of my head, I thought, I wonder if there are any Nebraskans here. So what did I do? I yelled, "Go Big Red." And somebody yelled, "Go Big Red." And I'm like, that way. We're going that way. And walked down and I found a dude from Grand Island. And next thing I know, I'm talking to another person from like Ord and Binkelman and all these different places. Like we met like 4 or 5 of them quickly. I have yet to travel internationally and not see a Nebraska hat in an airport somewhere. My wife and I went on a vacation in December, and there was a guy in the waiting area, the luggage area in the Dominican Republic with a Nebraska hat on. And I'm like, hey, man, go Big Red. And he's like, oh, where are you from? I'm like, I'm from Lincoln. He's like, oh, I'm from Fort Calhoun or wherever he was. I don't remember exactly now. But Nebraskans are everywhere. And in all walks of life and in all businesses, and they'll want to talk to you. So yeah, the alumni network around here is extraordinarily valuable.
I think that is all the time we have for today. Thank you to Matt and Maddie for joining me. And thank you for tuning in to the CoJMC Crash Course.